Hey folks, I'm making this video about the upcoming economic collapse. Is there going to be one? What's going on? I'm going to be doing case study of where we're at right now, especially with Jupiter about to move into Capricorn, joining Saturn. Also, the recent conjunction years ago of when Jupiter-Pluto aligned, that led to the economic collapse of 2008. Remember the big economic crisis? Right now, Jupiter and Pluto are also very close to each other, so I am going to be talking about those planets as well, because Pluto does have sort of generational or impact of large themes like this, so I'll be talking about that as well. And, to see where we are. If you want to get updates ongoing, you should subscribe to the channel, like the video, give it a thumbs up, like it, and share it, and subscribe. I always forget to say that, but please go ahead and do that. Also, if you are interested, and I hope you are, you'll see there's something now scrolling on the bottom of the screen, and it's an opportunity for you to come to a free web class on Jupiter, and I'll have the link in the description where you can learn about this upcoming Jupiter transit for your sign and for all signs for the next year. Jupiter is about to go into Capricorn, where he'll be there for the next several months. He was already in there earlier in 2020, and so it's a good time for you to also orient yourself to how you've already been dealing with all of the intense events of 2020, particularly with COVID and the adjustments to your wealth and your hope and optimism and things like that. But this is free. You could just go to the web page and just click yes, reserve my seat now. Then you just enter your name and email address and get this free web class. And again, you'll learn about this transit of Jupiter and Capricorn for you based on your rising sign, and all 12 signs for the next year. It's for the next several months and off and on for the next year at different times. But you'll also learn about it historically. And again, we just had it with COVID earlier in 2020, also through the different nakshatras. It'll be different when it goes in from Uttarashada to Shravana, then to Dhanishta. You'll learn some very cool remedies and whatnot. So it's definitely good. It's free, and it's a time for you to really immerse yourself in this transformative transit. So you can see I'm making this recording now. It's November 15th, and Jupiter and Pluto are right on top of each other. Now, there's been a big emphasis lately on the financial impact now that we can see that we're about to hit another big COVID streak. We're in it for the winter. Again, we're going to have to get some kind of lockdown, again, some kind of restriction. It's happening all around the world. We knew this was going to happen. We knew it back last winter, and we knew that we had to get it under control as much as possible and then ride it out and plan for this winter. And here we are, it's coming. So this shouldn't be surprising to anyone. Of course, somehow we're shocked miraculously. Oh, it is really going to happen again. Yes, it is. It's not a hoax. It's real. And so the financial repercussions of it are going to be hitting. We're seeing that intensity and that severity now as Jupiter just crossed over Pluto, right? Last week or so in early November. And then if we move this forward, we can see that Jupiter will continue within the next week. Jupiter will be in Capricorn, and then he'll be in that sign for the next, several months through May, I believe he goes in, and then he pokes his head back in. Oh yeah, and then he pokes his head back in later in the year, like in September. But so this Jupiter then going into Capricorn, we already had that in 2020 from the end of March until the end of June. So this is why I said that free class that you get is going to be a recurrence transit where you're already revisiting something that happened this year. Remember, from the end of March until the end of June, that's when we were really kind of in it with a lot of the COVID hunkering down, social distancing, staying home, feeling that stress and fear, but also that hope and that inspiration to some extent that came from seeing nature return to a more pristine state because we weren't out interfering and stuff like that. Remember that period? And we started really evaluating and rethinking our habits and rethinking our ways. I spoke a lot about things like cutting down on consumption of animals, having more respect for the environment, changing our diet, using that intense event of COVID to get more conscious, to get more focused on something that's more sustainable, to be more spiritual, to be more devoted, more devotional, less materialistic, less sort of hungry, like a hungry ghost, just taking everything. So again, the planet Pluto was also there and very close by at that time as well. So Pluto has been very close by this whole time. And again, so we're here now. And, I predicted several months ago that what we were really going to see when Jupiter went into Capricorn again and joined Saturn, and and when Jupiter passed over Pluto, this time that we're seeing now was going to see a reemergence of the financial stress and pressure and health stress, the stress on our hospitals and on our systems again due to COVID, and it could be worse than last year. We already see that the numbers are higher now than they were last year around the world because it's there. It's often the second wave that hits harder. We saw this with the Spanish flu of 1918, and it could hit even harder this time. So we need to be serious. We need to take this seriously. We need to stop acting like it's a hoax and all this other stuff. We're already seeing, again, the numbers rise. Take simple precautions. But as it relates to the economic policies, I'll go back and show you, this was the last time we had the Jupiter-Pluto alignment. This was the end of 2007. And it was actually at the end of 2007 that we started seeing the junk bond derivatives and the problems in the housing market that would later lead to that meltdown in the summer of 2008. We started to see the cracks in the foundation, and we tried to plug those gaps with the investment firm. I think it was Bear Stearns or something, and they needed to be bailed out and have a lot of assistance at the end of 2007, and then they tried to hold that together, seeing the impending subprime mortgage crisis that would then happen at the end of the summer of 2008. They already saw the writing on the wall, or the fear or the pressure or the stress at the end of 2007, which is by the time Jupiter-Pluto hit. Right? So this is like December 2007. By September of 2008, we had the major collapse of AIG and the insurance industry that underwrit all those bad loans and all that stuff. If you don't remember, I do. So we're kind of at a similar place right now where Jupiter has just went over Pluto this time, and we can see what's ahead. What's ahead is Saturn is sitting there waiting. We can already see an impending situation that is already difficult because we already lived through it. We already saw everybody locked down, jobs losing certain entire sectors of the economy, and then coming back in half measures, especially like with restaurants and whatnot. We did pretty good over the summer. And again, many places saw the numbers come down. The problem and the reason the numbers keep going up isn't because of the way we're handling those sectors of the economy. Even things like airplanes and whatnot, that's not what's causing it. What's causing it is our social life. Is that people then let their guard down, and then they get together with each other and they start spreading again. Right? This is the speculation, and I think it's probably true, is that, again, the protocols, if we observe the protocols that we're seeing in restaurants and other places like this, we'll probably be able to open sectors of the economy slowly again. Even things like movie theaters or something like that, right? Why are some of those things still closed, especially when we can still fly on airplanes with some distancing? But they think that one of the main reasons why is because of other things, other types of gatherings, especially social gatherings, where we get together in closed spaces. 10 days or so ago on election night here in the US, we saw a perfect example of a super spreader event. The president has no problem doing super spreader events the night of the election. He got all these people in the room, nobody wearing masks, everyone in a small room, packed in like sardines, hardly no one wearing masks, cheering and yelling and clapping. I think something like 10 people that were in that room now have COVID, right? Those are the kinds of events that people are doing more and more of now, and we've kind of let our guard down. So we got to get back to doing that again. And so we're in for a big correction again and a big economic hit. This is what I feared. Again, not just the economic hit to sectors of the economy, but taxing our hospital system, our health care workers, and of course having to then also shut down sections of the economy again because of the potential for super spreader activities. If more and more in the community start to get COVID and it starts to saturate the community again, we'll have to go back to more extreme measures. And so I see this happening. Again, we could be in for a major correction here and some major hardship getting into early next year, like around, again, this is in early mid-December. Again, we're going to have eclipse here. This is December 13th. We could see, right at that time, we also have Jupiter, Saturn right on top of each other. This could be major financial hardship and crisis that could happen around that time. There's no question that this could be we could be in for a very difficult time coming up. And again, Jupiter debilitated here with Saturn. Saturn is there. So Saturn is giving strength to get through it, but we could get some very severe financial news. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens in the next month or so, or at least as we move forward into the next year, as we get more and more bad news from COVID, especially, and its impact on people's financial lives. We need to pass a relief bill, a stimulus bill, like in the U.S. But again, we also have to realize that we've floated like trillions of dollars of money and just kind of pumped it into the economy to deal with the first wave. And it's kind of like fired our bullets already. Like we don't have any bullets left in the gun hardly. And now we're going to get hit with another wave. This is very serious, dangerous stuff. It could be a global correction where we could see a real devaluation of global currencies and stuff like that. Talking about a sort of global reset that's going on with the currency situation, because all countries have been floating currency like it's water to get through this, just inventing numbers. Fiat capital was tenuous before. Now, God knows where we're at. We don't even know where we're at this point. So Saturn is going to show us where we're at. That's what Saturn does. And so looking at these, this is early next year when Pluto then finally goes into Capricorn as well, January 3rd, January 10th. So into early January of 2021, by that time, we're now in the throes of Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto in Capricorn. Of course, Capricorn is the sign of consequences. It's also the sign of money and capital, and not just capital, not like cash in our hand, but investment. And the investment that's a bedrock to support your future, that kind of thing, which would be like, futures currency and things that are, where capital is backed up by strong investment. In other words, the thing that needs to support being able to float all this money. So we could see some real difficulties ahead, quite frankly. And it's going to show a need to really make some adjustments. And, we keep hearing about a reset, financial reset. Like I said, I think this is going to happen. Again, I'm not an economist or anything like this, but sometimes astrologers act like they know everything. I don't pretend I know everything. I definitely don't. I don't know everything about how global markets work well enough to know exactly what is going to happen. Again, sometimes astrologers act like they know everything. I don't. But I do know enough, and I do see enough to know that Capricorn, Saturn, Jupiter are all about capital and about wealth generation and about things getting lean and needing to get lean and mean and trimming back the waist. And it could be some real, hardship that comes. So we should be prepared for that. And again, on the other side of it, we're in a cycle of Saturn going through Capricorn and then going through Aquarius, where we are reconstituting our entire global system of money. I said this when Saturn first went into Capricorn, and I said it when COVID first hit. When it first hit, I said, this is a process of a reset of our entire relationship with money, with values, with nature, with our patterns of consumption, with animals, with globalization rather than localization, with living more sustainably. These are all corrections that need to happen. We can't keep acting as though we can just rape the land, take all the oil, kill all the animals, deforest and aggressively plant any kind of crop that's going to fulfill a certain niche. Like instead of using land in its diverse way to where we cultivate, crop diversity and all of that, just taking all the land and just planting corn so that we can have, especially, GMO corn or something, or palm oil or whatever it is, where we just come in and dominate an ecosystem and destroy the native biodiversity. We can't. This is why we're having so many problems now, including things like the viruses that jump from animal to person, or then we bring them in a lab and try to engineer the virus. We also destroy the ecosystem that can contain that virus. A bat virus in the bat's environment is just in the bat, and it doesn't bother anyone. Even the bat isn't. It doesn't even hurt the bat. But you take it out of that environment and it jumps into our environment, just like when we started moving from Europe to the New World, and the things that we had a herd immunity to killed the natives. So again, this whole unsustainable way that we're living, I see this transit of Saturn through Capricorn as a way of bringing us back, needing to reset our relationship with these rapacious tendencies that we have to just take everything from the earth. And COVID was a wake-up call, like I said last year. We're going to get through it, especially if we don't lose our head, which we seem to have done. Now, people think there's growing movements of where it's just a hoax, and it's just people trying to control, the governments are trying to control us, and we're going to again be microchipped, and we're going to be this and it's going to be that. And yes, we have to watch abuses, but underneath it all, this is also a major health crisis that we need to get through. It's it's wreaking havoc on our economic systems because of its extreme not asymptomatic spread and higher lethality rate. So again, these are things we're going to be grappling with. And whatever your opinions are about that, you can't deny the impact that it's having on a global reset and a global recalibration, particularly around all of the issues I already mentioned. For whatever reason, we need to be more sustainable, more local, less like viruses ourselves upon the earth. We're like a virus on the earth. The animals rejoiced and nature rejoiced when we were locked down for a few months last year. The waters ran clear again. The skies were clear again. That was something that we all saw, and it gave us all hope. And the same thing is going to be happening again to some extent. There's going to be some form of restriction again, and there's going to be a hit to the economy. So I wanted to talk about this and show the connection also to the last time Jupiter, Pluto joined like this. It was the last time, again, was at the end of 2007, where we were kind of right where we are now. Because what happened then, again, you say, well, the financial collapse didn't happen until September 2008. Yes, but that was after they spent months trying to plug all these holes they could see. Oh, we got some big problems here. Floating this capital, these junky derivatives that are underwriting all these subprime mortgages, and they tried to plug the gaps. They tried to get someone else to, I don't remember all the mechanisms. Like I said, I'm not an economist, but by the time of 2008, September 2008, that's when it collapsed. By the way, by that time, it happened in September 2008. Jupiter was at that time at the very edge. It was like Jupiter was like right here. I think it was September 18th, 19th or something, but Jupiter was about right where it is now at that time in 2008. It was around right here, September, I think it was September 16th or something was that like Friday when they knew they were going to have this major meltdown. And then over the next few months, this is when this was actually the election season of Barack Obama and John McCain. Barack Obama's first term was happening with this backdrop, with that economic collapse that had just happened. And Barack Obama was about to take office as president, which I'm going to run this forward. I'm glad I almost forgot. This is the backdrop. This is the recurrence. The last time Jupiter was here, that was the background. Obama had just been elected in the midst of this financial crisis. And then he took office in early 2009. By that time, Jupiter was in Capricorn. This is the time when Obama took office the first time. Look at where Jupiter was. It was 12 years ago. Jupiter comes around every 12 years. Well, early 2009, Jupiter was in Capricorn. Now here we are. It's going to be early 2021. Where's Jupiter going to be? In Capricorn again, but this time with Saturn. So this is where we are right now. So again, this is Jupiter debilitated in Capricorn, right? He poked his head in there earlier in the year. Like I said, he poked his head in there earlier in the year, and when COVID happened. So again, I also want to alert you to this again. Again, this is a free web class. You want to go check this out. We already had this from the end of March until the end of June, where Jupiter poked his head in Capricorn. That was the previous Jupiter in Capricorn for 3 months, and it was with Saturn. So again, it's very similar. We've already been through it once. We're going to go back to it again. So we kind of had a dress rehearsal. But Saturn's going to hit us again with it. And this time it could be much more intense. And he's going to say, look, you're supposed to have learned the lesson. Okay. So on this web class, you're not only going to learn about what's coming for you and all 12 signs. Like if you're a Virgo person, this is happening in your 5th house. Jupiter is the fourth and seventh house ruler in your fifth house. If you're Pisces, Jupiter is your first and 10th house ruler going through your 11th house. That's totally different, right? For all the different signs. So you're going to learn that. Then you're going to learn about it historically. Again, I talked about COVID. I talked about the last transit. You're going to learn about some remedies. You're also going to learn about through the different nakshatras. So all of that, you want to check it out. It's free, but it's very important to know because, again, we're on the cusp of this recurrence that happened 12 years ago when we went through that major financial crisis. And at that time, we floated $700 billion. It was like $700 billion. Oh, my God. How could we ever do something like that? Well, since COVID, we floated $700 billion like 5 or 6 times. We've floated trillions of dollars since COVID. And they're trying to float trillions more right now. They're trying to pass another economic support bill. And of course, what happened is in these bills, so much of it went to the wealthy. It's just been a huge, again, corrupt money grab. We've shifted all this money. You know, Jeff Bezos and all the billionaires got extremely rich off of COVID. We can't keep having this, man. So this is we're in this corrective moment now. And so this recurrence transit is very important. This Jupiter-Pluto conjunction. Again, I don't talk about Pluto all the time, but I do talk about it, especially in times like this where we can see these long-term effects when Pluto changes signs, because he's also now moving back into Capricorn, where he'll be in Capricorn for good. Now, he poked his head in Capricorn, but now he'll be in Sidereal Capricorn for good. He's not going to leave. Even after he goes retrograde, I don't think he's going to leave. I think he stays there. He doesn't go back into Sagittarius again. No, he's stopped. Right. So he stays in Capricorn now. So Pluto sets up in Capricorn for good for the next like 13 years or so, starting in January as well. Right. So Pluto pokes his head in early January, and he's going to be set up in Capricorn for the next 13 years or so. So again, big shift from the previous years. So I wanted to make this. And again, if you like this video, please share it with others. Subscribe, like and subscribe, and leave a comment about this as well. That helps the video. Again, I don't say that enough, but please do that. Subscribe to the channel, share it, and I hope you enjoyed this. We got big, important work ahead, and I wanted to just get this out to you. So thanks a lot.